Hello and welcome. So today we're going to dive into something I think we've all felt at some point, that universal search for a little bit of guidance. You know, we all get lost sometimes, but the real question is, who do we turn to for the right advice when we do?
Really think about it. When you're staring down a tough decision, maybe you're at a crossroads in your life, or you just feel completely and totally stuck, who's that first person you call? Who do you really trust to give you solid advice? We all have someone, or at least we all need someone.
In our everyday lives, this is just second nature. If you're feeling sick, you go to a doctor. If you're in some legal trouble, you get a lawyer. Want to build a house? You're going to talk to an architect. The logic is simple, right? For specialized problems, we seek out specialized counselors. And that's not a sign of weakness at all. It's a sign of wisdom.
But what happens when the stakes are way higher than a legal issue or a financial plan? What does it look like when an entire world seems to be missing that one crucial guiding voice?
This verse from the book of Isaiah, wow, it paints a really bleak picture, doesn't it? It describes this divine perspective, looking out at the whole world and finding it just completely empty of true counselors. Nobody to give sound advice, nobody to offer a clear path forward.
The absence of guidance can feel massive and profound, but it can also pop up in smaller and, frankly, more awkward ways. The source sermon we're looking at shared this really funny story about a wedding where once the bride got to the altar, everything just stopped. Nobody had a clue what to do next.
I'm not kidding. People were just standing around wondering, okay, what's the next step? Is she supposed to kick a pot or something? I'm pretty sure I saw that in a TV show once. It's a hilarious image, but it perfectly illustrates a simple truth. Without a guide, without a plan, even the happiest moments can just dissolve into total confusion.
So from huge, world-sized problems all the way down to wedding day mix-ups, a lack of guidance just leads to chaos. If we're living in a world that so often feels like it's missing a clear direction, what's the solution? Well, the sermon points to a very specific divine promise.
And this right here, this is the turning point. In the Gospel of John, Jesus makes this incredible promise. He gets that feeling of being lost, that feeling of being like an orphan without a parent. And he basically says, listen, that is not going to be a reality. I'm sending help. And here it is. This is the promised help. It's called the Helper, the Holy Spirit. Now, this isn't some external advisor you have to book an appointment with. The whole point is that this is an internal divine counselor whose entire job is to teach and provide wisdom from within. The solution isn't another person, but a divine presence. This idea of seeking divine counsel, it's not new, not by a long shot. The Bible is just packed with these high-stakes stories of leaders who either looked for it or totally ignored it, and the results were dramatically different. The contrast here is just so stark. It's like night and day. On one side, you've got King David, who consistently asked God for counsel before he would even think about going into battle. On the other side, there's King Saul. When he felt like God was silent, he got impatient and decided to get advice from a medium instead, which was a huge no-no. And the results, well, they speak for themselves. Victory and success for David, defeat and death for Saul.
And this is really the key takeaway from their stories. Even kings, the most powerful people of their time, they still recognized they needed a higher source of wisdom. It just goes to show that nobody, and I mean nobody, is above the need for good counsel.
Okay, so we get the problem, and we get the promised solution. But how does this actually apply to us? Today, in our lives, how do we actively find and use this wisdom?
Well, the book of Proverbs gives us this really practical three-step game plan. First, seek out multiple advisors. Good decisions are almost never made in an echo chamber, so get different perspectives. Second, and this one is so important, listen with humility. You could be getting the best advice in the entire world, but it's totally useless if you're too proud to actually hear it. And third, be discerning. You got to learn to spot and avoid advice from people who are cynical, destructive, or just plain self-serving.
And why does all this matter? Well, because following wise counsel isn't just some nice abstract idea. It produces real, tangible results. The source tells us it leads to success in what we plan, deliverance when we're about to head down the wrong path, and ultimately, a deep and lasting sense of joy. This brings us all the way back to that ultimate promise, beyond any human advisor you could ever find. This verse from Psalm 32 confirms it. There is a divine counselor who promises to personally instruct, teach, and guide us. It's a promise of constant, loving guidance.
So we'll end with this one question. In a world that's just full of noise and all sorts of conflicting advice, We all have to make a choice. We have to decide which voices we're going to listen to and which counselor we're ultimately going to trust. So, whose advice will you follow?